Go back to your father. Go and sleep with your boyfriends there. You killed my son with your unfaithfulness. And now you want to eat his sweat? Out!
At exactly 12 noon, Uncle Jude walked into the parlor with a heavy iron chain and a new padlock. Uncle Chuka was behind him, carrying a black garbage bag. "Time is up, Neka," Jude said, his voice cold and final. "I told you to pack. Since you want to be stubborn, we will help you." He reached out and grabbed Neka by the arm, trying to pull her toward the door. Neka dug her legs into the rug, her fingers locking around the pillar of the dining area. "Don't touch me," she screamed. "This is my husband's house. You are thieves." "It is our brother's house," Chuka shouted back, beginning to throw the children's school books into the garbage bag. "You have no will. You have no right. Our tradition says you are nothing." Mama Chioma stood by the door, pointing her finger at Neka's bald head. "Go back to your father. Go and sleep with your boyfriends there. You killed my son with your unfaithfulness, and now you want to eat his sweat? Out!" The children were wailing, clutching Neka's white lace wrapper as Jude dragged her toward the porch. The neighbors in the estate peeked through their curtains, but no one moved. It was a family matter, and in the face of such heavy accusations, they chose to stay silent. Just as Jude pushed Neka onto the hard concrete of the driveway, a silver Lexus SUV screeched to a halt at the gate. The driver didn't wait for the gate to be opened. He laid on the horn until Chuka, confused, went to slide the bolts. A man stepped out. He was dressed in a dark charcoal suit, carrying a thick leather briefcase. His face was set in a mask of absolute fury. "Mr. OK?" Neka whispered, her voice breaking. She collapsed onto her knees, not from weakness, but from relief. "What is going on here?" Mr. OK shouted, his voice echoing off the walls of the compound. He walked straight to Jude and shoved a hand against his chest, forcing him to let go of Neka's arm. "Who are you?" Jude demanded, trying to look brave. "This is a family issue. Get out." "I am Obinna's lawyer, Mr. OK said, his eyes flashing. "I arrived back in the country last night and saw the 24 missed calls from this woman's friend. I went straight to my office." Mr. OK opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick document with a gold seal. He held it up in front of Jude's face. "You said there was no will, Mr. OK said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Obinna was a smart man. He knew his family. He came to me a year ago. This is a legally binding will and a living trust." Jude reached out to snatch the paper, but Mr. OK pulled it back. "Don't even try it. The original is in the High Court's vault. This document states clearly that this house, the cars, and all bank accounts are tied into a trust for Chidi, Somi, and Toby. And Neka, his wife, is the sole administrator and guardian until the last child turns 21. Mama Chioma stepped forward, her voice shaking. "It is a lie. Neka must have slept with you to cook this paper. My son would never shut his own mother out." "Actually, Mama," Mr. Oki said, turning to her, "he left you a monthly allowance of 50,000 naira, provided you remain in the village and do not interfere with his wife. If you cause her any trouble, the allowance is cancelled immediately." Jude and Chuka looked at each other. The greed in their eyes was replaced by a sudden, sharp fear. The law was a wall they could not climb. "We will challenge it in court," Jude blustered, though his hands were shaking. "She killed him, the tradition says." "The tradition does not override the Constitution of Nigeria, Jude," Mr. OK interrupted. "And as for your accusations of her sleeping around, I suggest you keep them for the defamation suit I am filing against you tomorrow morning. Now, get your bags and get out of this compound." Neka stood up. She wiped the dust from her white lace. She looked at Mama Chioma, who was suddenly trying to look small and pitiful. "Neka, my daughter," the old woman started, her voice cracking. "You know I was only trying to protect the children. I can stay. I can help you with them while you mourn." Neka looked at the woman who had called her a murderer and a harlot. She looked at the men who had tried to starve her children. "Brother Jude, Brother Chuka," Neka said, her voice calm and cold, "pack the suitcases you brought. Mama, take your tea and your rags. If any of you are still inside this gate in 10 minutes, I will let the lawyer call the police for armed robbery. 10 minutes later, the gate clicked shut. The house was quiet. The heavy, suffocating cloud of the last few weeks had finally lifted. Nneka sat on the sofa, her sofa, and pulled her children into her lap. Chidi looked up at her, his eyes wide. Are they coming back, Mommy? No, my son, Nneka said, kissing the top of his head. They are never coming back. Ify arrived shortly after, crying and hugging Nneka. They spent the evening moving the furniture back to its rightful place. Months later, Nneka won the final court case. The judge threw out every accusation the in-laws tried to bring. Nneka remained in her home, her head of hair growing back thick and strong. She was no longer just a widow. She was a woman who had stood in the fire and refused to burn. As she sat on the veranda one evening, watching the children play under the same sun Obinna used to love, she whispered to the wind, "We are okay now, Obinna. We are home."